Ukraine has announced a retaliatory strike against Russia for its attack on the Dnieper River using a new type ballistic missile. The Kremlin has hinted that it will continue attacks using the Oreshnik missile. Against the backdrop of the escalation in Ukraine, Western leaders are holding meetings and developing a joint strategy against Russia. A meeting between U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and the NATO Secretary General was due to take place in Florida. It has begun. The first snow in Poland is also usually the first big snowfall in Ukraine. In the east, this means a time called the offensive of General Mud. For a few weeks until the first severe frost, traffic off paved roads will be almost impossible for heavy equipment. Hence Russian preparations for a foot offensive. At least this is the tactic seen in the Kursk region in recent days.
Russia's amassing thousands and thousands of troops in the Kursk region, and most of them are now moving by foot. In addition, they've also shifted forces they've received from North Korea, up to 12,000 already, into the same region to start to push back Ukrainian forces.
Kursk, along with Donbass, is one of the main directions of the Russian assault. Putin wants to retake the region before starting any talks on negotiations. So much for the fact that the Ukrainians just got permission to use precision missiles in the area, which are already known to be deadly effective. In a recent attack on Russian underground quarters in Marino in the Kursk region, more than a dozen soldiers, including North Korean officers, were to lose their lives.
The situation in the front lines of the unprovoked Russian war against is difficult. Russia is attempting to gain territories with huge losses and equipment in manpower. That's why they invite the PRK. We are resisting against the new axis of evil and want to thank Paul and Swedish government for their firm support.
In the background, the fate of the new order, and more specifically the plan to build it, is being weighed. In Florida, President-elect Donald Trump has just met with the Secretary General of NATO.
There's going to be some face saving for the Ukrainians. There has to be an end to the war where the Ukrainians still have an independent country that the Russians are no longer bombing. When he says he's going to end the war, he needs to actually end the war. And I think if Putin refuses to accept that, then there probably will be direct consequences from a Trump administration against Russia.
What options are on the table after what Putin has done? Basically all of them at the moment. Firing a medium-range ballistic missile is a demonstration not so much of strength as of unpredictability.
It appears dangerous, but I think we should also not let ourselves be intimidated and cowed by these threats from Russia and by its escalatory actions. That's precisely what Putin wants. He wants to really cow the Western countries and the Ukrainians into saying, okay, we give up.
Is it possible to ignore the Kremlin's threats? Certainly not. But talking about a third world war is definitely an exaggeration. All the more so since the slogan, peace through strength, is to become one of the key strategies of the West, which by its very definition excludes giving Putin the initiative. The first reading of the Citizens' Bill, Yes to the Central Transportation Port, is behind us. It was intended to oblige those in power to urgently build a central transportation port in Poland. According to the initiators, the government's current actions in this regard are not sufficient. This project in this form is not going as it should go. This project as it stands is moving too slowly. It's moving with modifications, some of which are unfavorable. And it's moving in a direction that raises doubts about its economic viability in the shape it's being carried out. Poles have similar concerns, which is why as many as 200,000 citizens signed the bill. Despite this, deputies of the ruling coalition, the so-called Civic Coalition, filed a motion to reject it. This bill reminds me more of an advertisement for alcoholic beer, not a project of citizens. On this issue, the government's plenipotentiary for the Central Airport, Maciej Lasek, is rambling. On the one hand, he declares the continuation of the airport's construction, while on the other, he doesn't want to hear about any project that would oblige him to do so. We can do it together with social peace, not with forcing the government to make the day last longer, the lights to stay longer, or anything else. Opposition deputies have no doubt that there will be no transportation hub built in Poland under Donald Tusk's government. The curtain has fallen. The Civic Platform has unveiled its true intentions, which is to stop this historic investment that actually divides the political class but unites citizens. The future of the Civic project will be decided in a vote on Wednesday. Civic Platform deputies don't even want to work in some substantive way, to listen to the voice of citizens, to think about individual regulations at the committee, maybe even to change them. Deputies have the right to do that. No, they don't even want to hear about the development of Poland. They are holding back not only investments, the state treasury is running dry, and high energy prices are hitting Poles and businesses. On the horizon, more mass layoffs. Intel employees from Gdańsk will soon be laid off. It is not clear how many will lose their jobs. Surprisingly, just last year, the company announced an increase in employment. As part of the wide-ranging cost-saving plan announced in August, we are making difficult but necessary decisions on downsizing, treating our staff with care and respect. These are the toughest decisions we have ever faced. Employees at Northvolt, also based in Gdańsk, will also be saying goodbye to their jobs. The owner of the energy storage systems factory has announced the termination of its operations in Poland. The economic situation is increasingly worrying Poles. Politicians of the ruling coalition face tough questions at meetings with voters. Everything is sold. What is sold? Big companies. Everything is collapsing. What companies are going bankrupt? The Marshal of the Sejm, Hołownia, seems to have missed the problem. Will you gentlemen allow us to talk? Or are we going to shout slogans I know from Republika television? The men with whom the Marshal of the Sejm clashed were farmers who took part in the spring mass protests in Warsaw. The farmers accused those in power of failing to live up to their end of the bargain and have just resumed their protests at the Medyka border crossing. It's a race against time for them. Every day, thousands of people, primarily from Mexico and Venezuela, try to cross the border into the United States ahead of Donald Trump's takeover of power, who wants to decisively seal the borders. We heard about Trump's win when we came out of the jungle, but we decided to move on. We have nothing to lose. We must succeed. Donald Trump, on the dangers of illegal migration and solving the problem, spoke directly during the campaign.
So I have come today with a message of hope for all Americans. With your vote Tuesday, I will end inflation. I will stop the massive invasion of criminals into our country, and I will bring back the American dream.
His future administration does not even rule out imposing a state of emergency if necessary. In 2022, the U.S. Department of Security estimated the number of undocumented migrants at more than 11 million people. Current NGO estimates show that there could be as many as 20 million of them on U.S. soil. We will see if we can get through and what the final decisions will be. Everyone wants to know what will happen next, but we still have to wait. Donald Trump and his new White House administration will officially take office in January. One of the sure nominations is the one for Robert Kennedy Jr., who will become the Secretary of the Department of Health. Kennedy unexpectedly in one of his interviews referred to Poland, corruption, and Andrzej Leper, whom he met in 2003.
And then Smithfield wanted to come in and take over hog production in Poland. Oh, it bribed offered a bribe to a state official called Andrzej Leper, who then turned them in. He told me that the second guy in command of Smithfield offered him $1 million bribe. And the bribe was to pass legislation, which they did end up passing, although Lepper refused to do it. But it was legislation that said you could not operate. Smithfield had come in and bought the old Soviet slaughterhouses, which were huge. They were like the state-owned operation, and then it was modernizing them. But it passed a law simultaneously.
Robert Kennedy Jr. is an American lawyer and social activist, known among other things for his uncompromising fight against pharmaceutical companies. In the recent election, he also ran for the highest office in the country, but ultimately dropped out and endorsed Donald Trump. A 29-meter red spruce from the Alpine region of Ledro in northern Italy has been placed in St. Peter's Square. The Christmas tree was chosen for its height and strong branches. On the 7th of December, Pope Francis's general audience will be followed by a Christmas tree lighting ceremony and the opening of the nativity scene. Christmas lights, ornaments, and other decorations have cheered up the medieval halls of a castle in Windsor, near London. Christmas decorations were unveiled at the royal residence. The Christmas tree was decorated with more than 3,000 lights and hundreds of decorations.
Each year, somebody is sent out in September to select the trees that are going to be brought in for Christmas. It's a living tree, so it's watered during its time inside the castle, and at the end of Christmas, it will be sent back to the home park and replanted.
The transport of the Christmas tree to the Washington Capitol marks the official start of the holiday season. This year's tree is a 20-foot Sitka spruce from Wrangell, Alaska.
Today, we're going to set the tree in the west front lawn. The Capitol Grounds and Arboretum team already hard at work. We'll spend the next several days decorating the tree with thousands of LED lights and thousands of handcrafted ornaments.
The tree traveled more than 7,000 kilometers in 3 weeks, first by ship from Alaska and then by truck across the country. The ceremonial lighting of the Christmas tree lights will take place on Tuesday evening on the 3rd of December. Hong Kong's holiday season kicked off with a fireworks display that lit up the sky over Victoria Harbor. And in the newly established Arts and Culture District in West Kowloon, a 20-meter Christmas tree decorated in red and gold with a dazzling octagonal star. It's the kind of season you look forward to all year. I'm really curious how they managed to put such a tall tree here with a star on top. City authorities hope the number of tourists in the coming year will exceed the record high of 65 million from 2018. Finally, we return to Europe for Vienna's Christmas market in front of the City Hall, which is considered one of the most beautiful in the world. We like to walk around and see the different colorful stalls and drink mulled wine. We just came here all the way from Germany. More than 3 million visitors from all over the world visited the market in Vienna last year. The 80-year-old tree was transported from the province of Lower Austria and is 30 meters tall. Every year since 1959, a different province has donated a Christmas tree to the capital's largest Christmas market.